Hey, listen, we got some things that we gotta discuss. How we can affect the system and make it better for us. But first, we gotta start with the man in the mirror. Open your third eye and the vision's gonna be much clearer. We are revolutionary. We are visionary. And we stand resolute on those who pollute the minds of many. Revolutionary. We are visionary. And we stand resolute on those who pollute the minds of many, y'all. This is the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast, y'all.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast. This is episode 8, I think, and I'm one of your hosts, Ace.
And I'm your other host, Alicia.
And we're very fortunate to be blessed by not one, but 2 guests this week. We got Mr. Jerome, MT, making his, third or fourth appearance over here. How's it, MT?
Hi, everybody. So great. I really appreciate it. Conscious people and having conscious that. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And we got Mr. David Shelton. How are you doing?
First of all, I'm doing blessed and just great to be here in the presence of my professor. Man, the best professor I ever had in life, and I miss him so much. But it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to stay connected, David. I was going to say reconnect, but hasn't been long enough to reconnect. It's good to stay connected, and as we move forward, different roles in our lives, and I've always appreciated you for your role as a student, your participation in the podcast, but just the human connection that we've had, Dave. And so it's a pleasure to have you here joining us, and I look forward to hearing what you got to say.
Thank you.
And well, I thought, since we're kind of spread out across the world, not completely, but we are all hundreds of miles away. But I guess we're probably thousands of miles away from each other. So we're in Girdwood, Alaska, which is down by the Turnagain Arm in between Anchorage, the main city, and not the capital, but the main city of Alaska, and then the Kenai Peninsula. And then Dave is all the way up in Northwest. So like we're on one end of Alaska and Dave's all the way up there in Kotzebue. How's the weather there, Dave? We only have like a millimeter of snow here, but you had to have already gotten snow, right?
We got snow, and we also had to evacuate last week due to the fact that we had flooding. The snow fell so heavy that we had ocean overflow into the village. So we've evacuated to schools, to the courts. So the water has now receded, and now we're back in a position where it's just cold. It's just cold.
Real cold.
Right? Very cold.
Dave, when I used to live up in Utqiagvik in Barrow, Alaska, just a little bit further north of Dave, but I'd be at work and people would be like, man, it's warm outside today. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean by that, but I think it's not warm, but maybe a better way to put it is it's not quite that cold today, but it's still cold.
Personally lived in a village before I moved to Kotzebue, and the village is Shungnak, Alaska. Now, mind you, I'm straight from Atlanta, Georgia to Shungnak, Alaska. Mind you, I've never seen 40 below. But when it got to be 20 below, it's warm out here.
You get acclimated, because I remember when we were in Fairbanks and we were coming out of winter, and it was like, I think it was like 10 degrees or something. And I was like, kids, let's go outside. We can go play outside. But before that, oh my goodness, if we had thought of 10 degrees.
Yeah, what Dave deals with that we didn't have in Fairbanks is that Arctic wind, though. It's a different ball game. So I know MT's over there dreaming about it, sitting in his air-conditioned room, just wishing he was up there in the Arctic.
Y'all know that's a lot. You need the sun, no AC. Yeah, I like to spend all my time. Even my mother would have a conversation. And I was noticing every time I come inside, it's the shoot podcast, the shower, sleep, and eat. If my mother's home, not home, like eat outside. I would do everything else too, but yeah. I mean, I got spoiled like spending so much time on farms and just like open area in Hawaii, like outside living, pretty pretty comfortable for me. I need the sun. I'm up with the sun, and once the sun goes down, it's in my day. So yeah, I try to spend all the time. I was scared, bro, to visit you in Alaska when you told me there was no sun. I was like, I can't dig it. Give me the time when the sun's all day, like 20 hours. I mean, dude, the dog in that winter, man, I can't do it. But no, I'm blessed to be out here in Texas. The weather is pretty good. The heat doesn't get to me. I'm very acclimated to it. The sun, and, always present. And because of the planes in San Antonio, I get it for a decent amount of time, even on shorter days. I'm excited. Finally been placed in a continent that I don't like.
You make me think of I have a Inupiaq, Alaska Native Inupiaq friend. His name is Rob, and he's from up there on the North Slope in Barrow. And he came to visit me in Utah one time, and we were staying in my dad's house. And I remember I woke up and I was looking for him. I couldn't find him, and so I found him outside on the front porch. And I went out there, and he's like, Ace, it's the first time I ever been anywhere where I had to go outside to warm up because the air conditioner was on. I was like,
That's funny.
well, anyways, we're here. We want to talk about all things. Well, maybe not all things, but we just want to casually conversate and dialogue about some things with revolutionary social work. And there's all right, well, Alicia, you're surrounded by all these men, and sometimes men do all the talking, and we've even had folks reflect on that in the YouTube comments. So what's on your mind, Alicia?
Yeah, you know what's funny though, because I'm a therapist, right? So I'm listening to people all day, all day long. So I think it's just very natural for me to sit back and kind of listen and then chime in when I have something that I feel like is meaningful to share. But yeah, when we were talking about the natural environment, I was just driving back from Anchorage, because when you live in Girdwood, you got to drive into Anchorage, get all your groceries, wash your car, get all of that done in one go. Then on the way back, the sun is beaming today, and it's just beautiful. And seeing the mountains and the fjords right there it's amazing. And I was listening to, I don't know if you've heard the Mahali song, "Living is a Lesson," and it just really reminded me. It was talking about just slow down, think about your vision, think about your mission. It's time to let that out. Don't waste any time. And living is the lesson. The whole art being of living is the lesson. Like, don't waste it. And I think that's so important. And when we talk about revolutionary social work, I think that's key, because we're constantly evolving as people, as humans, but as social workers as well. And so are the people we work with. And so it's this like art and balance and dance of growing together and, sharing our wisdom, our knowledge, our stories with each other, and constantly revolutionizing our thoughts and our values and our beliefs as we do that. And I think that's, like we've said on previous podcasts, that's such a key part of revolutionary social work, is that revolutionizing of ourselves, so that we can help other people do that as well, but also do it as a community, as a family, as a social work field in general. But that song, "Living is a Lesson," if you have time to listen to it, by Mahali, check that out. We've been digging Mahali lately. Huh? Wise words.
Yeah, Mahali is definitely worth listening to if you want somebody to reflect. Well, what's on my mind, anyways. But it makes me think what you're talking about is a contradiction within social work, and that is everything that you're talking about that we have to achieve. It takes time and reflection, and basically a little bit of security in a lot of senses to be able to, have the confidence to go about your world and be focused on the present and live meaningful, enjoyable lives. On one end, you have professional social workers that can, have huge client loads, and people might tell them, or they might even have to get a CEU about self-care, but they don't even have time for none of that. And if they do, it's, are negative things like booze and other things like that. But then on the other side, it makes me think of David, because, Dave's academic road in social work hasn't been, the smooth ride. It's like mine. It's, full of bumps and whatever. And I think especially in the master's level, but even at the bachelor's level, you know what I mean? You have all these things you have to worry about, all these hoops you have to jump through and David knows exactly what I'm talking about, from a practicum internship to making sure you meet the credits, and if you transfer or something like that, matching them all up. But it seems like what gets lost in the way sometimes in this day and age in social work, especially like these online asynchronous programs, but even they could be lost in person, is just a human connection and the consciousness that you build by connecting with your peers, by connecting with your professors, your students. And obviously, like Dave and I have been able to transcend that as well as, with other students and whatnot. But it makes me wonder, Dave, how are you holding up in this journey where you're finishing up maybe the first major leg of it, but then, do you have time to take care of yourself? And are you, what are your thoughts?
Let me say this. First off, Miss Alicia, I follow you. And when I say to you that you've made me rethink the whole process of what I want to go into when I go into my graduate years, here's why. You share the same page as your husband, but when you speak, sometimes it resonates in a different way. One of the things you just said was about self-resolution or revolution. I feel that there's a challenge when it comes down to our own beliefs and assumptions, especially when it comes down to revolutionizing in social work, because that mirror that Christian just talked about for myself, I've had it in front of me for the last 2 years. And I keep seeing things that make me second guess those things that I thought I knew. I'm 51. And I'm just in my undergrad. And honestly, Christian, I think me and my wife talked about this last night. Because when I met you, I had 6 credits. I graduate in May. I met you less than 2 years ago. But my question has been to myself the entire time, what do I want? How do I want it? And I think that revolutionary thing has to happen inside first. When you start looking at those things of what have I assumed, what I believed, what I hold myself accountable for, what I've held myself responsible for, now what do I want? Now what do I really truly want? And I think at a young age, you can feel this way. At a middle age, you can feel this way. At an old age, you can feel this way. But no matter what it is, you got to do some self-analyzation. Where we going? Where we going? So I believe the revolutionary scenario needs to happen first here. And it's been happening for me. There's been times where I say, I want to be here or I want to be there. And I hope this makes sense. But I'm finding out now what I really value, what I really truly want out of this, how I can be motivated to continue in this. Like, listen, you run this show and you haven't stopped. Whether you're funded or not, or somebody is sponsoring or not, you haven't stopped. There's something that has been your why. Why am I doing this? What's making me do it? Is it money? Is it somebody feeling some way about me? But all those things have to be brought into consideration when following this particular road. I love the road that y'all on, and I'm on the lower level, but I see something greater. I see something much more powerful now that I didn't see before. And for you to even have me on this platform, everybody here probably got a degree or a letter behind it. And man, I see it now, and I want it. So yeah. So I'm redefining my purposes or my purpose, and my beliefs and my personal development for what it feels that I have a resilience for. I want to create those things to be much more powerful than what they've been before so that I can be a soldier in the army and I can help those that need the help.
Yeah, and I would say one thing, David, is that at least from my perspective, and I think everyone in this studio would say the same, is that you don't need any letters behind your name for us to see the value in your humanity, but also in your contribution to this episode, to revolutionary social work, to our lives. A letter's just a name, and I mean, it's kind of what revolutionary social work is against. I don't know, against is the right way, but, trying to look at different ways, alternative ways to look at what makes a social worker. How can a social worker be valuable? And too often those letters, whatever the letters are, the 3 letters, PhD, MSW, BSW, whatever it is, they carry far too much weight. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have any, but as we should all probably know, you can have a PhD or an MSW or be a clinical social worker. Now, all those things take a lot of effort, so not to downplay anyone, but I've known people in each of those categories that weren't very good at what they did. And I've known a lot of people with nothing by their names that were excellent and overachieved what those other folks were doing. And I can think of tons and tons of examples, and you would be one of them, Dave. And so, I know when you were talking about like the long road and looking down, I see you as this person that, you see further than some people do. Some people only see right here, and you see down there. And I remember when I was in your path, I was kind of that way too. And a lot of people are just going to tell you to slow down, or it's going to feel like everybody has the chains on you and you're trying to run to get free. And just keep running, man. Although some of those are kind of unbreakable in the present, because a degree is a degree, and they have requirements for what they have requirements for. But you can transcend all that stuff, man. And I feel like you got the right attitude, Dave. And keep running. Don't let anybody slow you down. Especially, like you said, you're a few years older than me, so you've used up more of your time. So all the more reason to keep going. You know what I mean?
One thing you were saying. Your whole idea of you can think one thing during your young ages, think something different in your middle ages. And the key part of that is that's okay, right? We can think one thing when we were younger and that still be a valid thought for then within context. And we can revolutionize, we can become more aware, we can deepen our thought, connect with different people, live these values in revolutionary social work, and it evolves and we ourselves revolutionize. And I think we need to be compassionate to ourselves and to all each other, that we may think one thing yesterday, even today, and tomorrow I may change my mind because I have some new knowledge. But if we need to live that, and we need to be okay with that. And I think all too often we're held to, well, you used to say this, or you used to believe that, or this was your past. And okay, but did you learn from it? Do you have a story to share now? You have wisdom from that to share. And then you step into this new role of today. Every day is a new day. So yeah, when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's so beautiful. That is such a key part of revolutionary social work.
I raised 5 kids. I was a single dad for 11. And my girls and my boys have a different perspective of me that I had of me. When I talk to them, I'm thinking, man, I messed up. I done smacked a couple heads. Yeah, but what their perspective of how I raised them was like, I'm thankful for you. Wait, for me? But there's that imposter syndrome as well. But I think there's a commitment that we have to all make to a lifelong lesson. That's it. Just a lifelong lesson. And you never stop learning. I just got off the phone with my 28-year-old and I just learned a new lesson. I got off the phone with my daughter the other day and her daughter, and they just taught me something new. I think the moment that we die is when you haven't allowed yourself to be a part of that lifelong lesson. It has nothing to do with you being buried. It has everything to do with you stop learning. It's like those trees behind you. The moment that something dies, you bury it. But if it's growing, it's living. So if our conversation isn't growing, it's dead. If our mind isn't growing, it's dead.
I would take that further, and I was just looking at that today. John Africa, rest in peace, from the Move organization in Philly. He talks about revolution a lot, and he says, if we don't revolutionize, we'll die. If your heart doesn't continuously revolutionize, you'll die. If your lungs aren't continuously revolutionizing, you'll die. And so I think if you look at social work, it's a good analogy to social work, because to me, social work, I'm not saying it's dead, but it's dying because it's not revolutionizing. It's just building more programs and being more convoluted and whatnot. And it's not revolutionizing itself, which means checking yourself and holding yourself accountable. And social work as we should say, as a profession, collectively, and the organizations that represent social work are just plain not doing that. And I was wondering, MT, where you can chime in on here, thinking about revolutionizing and, constant change. And like I said, even elements of our body require revolution in order for us to keep going and to keep breathing and for our heart to keep going. So how do we look at that from a day-to-day perspective where we're always changing, yet we're trying to create, at least for me, I'm trying to create positive patterns in my life, rituals, things like that. But so how do we balance all that where we're, moving forward into this future and to change, continuous change and revolution, but also being grounded, with where we're at in the present?
Yeah, sis, I'm glad you started the conversation today. And that I got to be the one that sat back for a while and listened, because a lot was coming. And as we were talking, what I was constantly identifying, I wrote it over and over, is us just articulating that life is a constant change. And the moment that we have to pinpoint and we stop or we make something stop, we say this is the little that is now identified with a person, with my situation, with my perspective. That limitation is what makes us feel dead, makes us feel like we're still a part of a past experience instead of being present in the living, right? So as soon as you started talking, I was like, oh man, living is the lesson. That really is what we're talking about. Like that's the focus, is that living is the lesson. Life is constantly going, just like the wind is always blowing, the water is always flowing, the sun is always shining. Even in our night, the sun still shines. That's your problem, not right. So it's always constant. But when we sit ourselves, when we identify with ourselves, when we forget to co-locate with the experience and the experiencing of life, we die. We stop. It's not even rest. Even when I go to sleep at night, my body's still breathing, my mind's still going, heart's still pumping, right? It's just I'm not participating at the time, experiencing of it, right? I'm just going off into let experience itself for when I shut consciousness, right? But what conscious conversations, we are truly focused and concentrated on the experience and staying within the present moments of experiencing life. And I know for me, with my business and reevaluation counseling, rather than psychotherapy and social conditioning, we always are trying to get you to get into the present, trying to get you into the lasting identification and perspective. Like we say you stop learning, you stop growing intellectually and mentally when there's no elasticity within your brain, right? Neuroelasticity is very important. You can't learn anything if you don't want to ever the connections in our bodies, the connections in our brain, And so when we're talking even about revolutionary, there needing to be a self-transformation. The self-transformation is really getting super present and knowing that the present is not a fixed time and place, but it is a flowing change. And if I allow myself connected to the flow of that change, then I wouldn't be like a little pool, right? They say stagnation is what creates disease. Within the chakra system, all those emotions, all those traumas, they're just things that block the flow of energy of who you are. Because when you are flowing, you're in peace, you're in bliss, you're unaware of any limitation, right? And as we're talking, Brother David was acknowledging, this purposeful process that he's identifying by watching videos and following just your process and the was talking deep, but your guidance. And for me, the thing that came up, especially when we started talking about letters, because Brother Dave, I ain't got no letters, all right? And I had to learn my path was after being 40. I was like, you know what? I'm not supposed to have no letters. I'm supposed to be over here in the circle so that the letters can have somebody to come to that ain't got a letter on, you know? And you talked about the moment your purpose or your perspective on purpose changed, the empowerment, right? It started something like that, right? The shift that the purpose is what is the power of influence, not the letter, right? And so for me, what chimed in was there's power behind me when there's purpose in front of the man, right? When you purpose in front of you and that's the only thing you see, then with your name comes all this power. Because that's been my experience. I've just been completely purpose driven. Didn't think about none of that. Sacrificed some of that educational stuff and went in the forest in the woods and sat with some elders and had some real hard times. But when I came back, I had clear purpose and such a devotion, covenant with that purpose that when people started saying my was ain't even my government name no more, right? Like people call me MT. Bro, I'm an empty cup. And for whatever reason, you said the letters MT. And people are like, there's a power of this thing there, blah, 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 blah. But it has nothing to do with any of the achievements, any of the accolades, any of the things that I've wired. It's the purpose. And so for me, I recognize that part of the conversation, how powerful purpose is, and me being revolutionary and being in the present moment and allowing change, allowing me to flow with my elasticity of experience and experiencing comes from me being purposeful. And that's something that I've always really tried to attune to prior to every session I have with a client, that I have with a godchild or someone that I'm servicing in the community. If they know the purpose, if I know the purpose, I can move a lot of blockages to them being elastic and being expansive, being able to co-locate them. That there's no boundaries and barriers in between them being able to experience and be experiencing, their present moment of what it is when the purpose, when it's pleased. It's just like when you have a topic, right? Or you go into a personal conversation with your partner and you say, hey, man, we got to pay this bill, right? Everything else goes up. The only focus is the bill, purpose of the bill. Conversation can now be super creative on multiple ways. It's one thing because the purpose has been made clear, right? And so while I was listening to that comment, it just kept this beautiful rhythm of living as the lesson. There's a need for us to be elastic in our perspective and our identification of what we're experiencing and what the experience is. And purpose is the thing that helps me tune to that acutely enough to I feel like crap when something don't go my way. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what you guys were sparking within me. What do you guys feel about?
Every time that you mention purpose, I've never before. I remember having a conversation with you, when everyone would connect and dance with you at Waikiki, and you taught me about purpose, briefly then, and I'd never thought about it connected with presence. like having a purpose that brings me to the present moment. But it makes so much sense. And where did that come from? The wisdom of purpose, is that something you've always had, or is that a recent
It's
awareness?
ritual, right? So being raised in a monastic lifestyle, pretty much. My parents were my dad was a bishop, the seminary. My mom was an elder. We created Christian conscious communities all over the world. And I'm a Black man. So for us, church and that ritual of life is so rich. Like coming around the dinner table was a ritual. Cleaning the house was a ritual. Everything that we did, it was so imbued with purpose. And that's what made things sacred, right? Like my mother I would fast at 10 years old is when I started. By the time I was 13, I was allowed to do 3 days and nights, just like the adults, right? So I lived a very different life than every kid around me. I lived in this very, you know, Christ conscious, spiritual development, emotional development container. So when I got to that place, not going without food, I had seen people that live not eating 3 days and nights just because they broke. They're not poor. They just ain't got money in it, right? The poverty is a mindset. It's not a condition. So they just didn't have the money to eat for 4 days. And they were in pain, hungry, angry, all of these things. And then I would see my mother and father, and they would fast for 3 days and nights consciously with a purpose. And my father, by the second day, was clearer. He was more empowered. He had way more energy. My mother was more patient. She was softer. And she would use her subtle wisdom to influence everything around us with even greater efficacy. And it wasn't they just didn't eat for 3 days and nights. It's the fact that prayer was right? Pray purposeful. And this is, like me being in spirit, we have a crossover with religious identifications and dogma, right? And so a lot of people don't understand that religion is literally social agreement that certain things have been sanctified or set apart or purposefully and agreed upon that will, generate this emotional, so physical well-being that we call spirituality, or in modern terms, actual holistic healing, right? So that's all it was. Listen, here are the rituals for you to sanctify these parts of your life, but purpose, highly attuned with practice, so that you can put in the powerful energy and vibration, the frequency of this purpose into your life, right? And it was a daily thing. When I'm Indian, I could go into a particular water and I cleanse myself, just put the same water on, and with a particular purpose of saying, this is sacred, this time, at this place, and in these conditions, I can completely cleanse my soul of emotional pain. Or I can go in and jump and play in that same water 12 hours later with no purpose, and I can get into a fight, and I can create all kinds of emotional pain. It's that purpose that allows us to tune the present. And it allows me to tune to that present moment in a way that empowers me and practice it. And that's what ritual was for religion. It was the observation of our elders, having seen what things actually produce high frequency vibration in us, so that we could live lives full of good character, for what my people say. And the human ideology, all things are supposed to bring about good character, gentle and appropriate character for peace and well-being. That was the whole goal of life. And so these observations, it said, hey, when you do this, like this time, this space, knowing consciously it's going to do this for you. It creates that frequency. And you can do it over and over and over again. So then when I had to kill an animal from food, I had to take life. I knew that there was something that wasn't natural. Taking life is not natural. And so when that happened, I would pray for my food. And guess what happens? I would elevate the frequency of the food in front of me because I would sanctify sacrifice. Right? Even when we would give thanks after killing, I am sanctifying the sacrifice of life. I'm making it special. I'm empowering it with purpose. And I'm not taking anything for granted. And by doing that, it allows me the practice of coming into the present moment and in putting the present moment in with purpose. So many people are trying to be passively present. No, be actively present, especially as like a committed African man. Like, yo, my purpose is, I'm trying to Shango. I'm trying to swallow the present. My problem is that ain't big enough. This body is not big enough for the amount of life I want to consume. And it's so flowing that I have to sometimes swallow. I'm so limited. I just wanted to all the life, but not the material. And that's, I think, a big disconnect is that most of us are connected to the material part of practice, of ritual, of all of these systems, of these static ideas, when they're really to get you into a consistent, flowing experience of living the life lesson, right? Which is to just understand that living is the lesson. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no God, no devil concept. There's no real, there really is no contract. And so the moment that we're sticking in that contrast, or we identify the contrast, that's what's true. And the cutoff is stagnation. And stagnation is I'm no longer present, I'm no longer experiencing, I'm no longer flowing. And, when we get stuck in that, we call it identity. And many of us have an identity crisis because we done got stuck in too many of those places and don't know which one to pick. Pick the present, baby. Live. Let life be the lesson. So it's just that ritual of sanctifying purpose, purposely sanctifying something, setting something apart that allows you to imbue the present moment with an intention that's high vibrational, holistic, that's going to move you forward. That's how I learned that lesson, that there's power in purpose, and purpose empowers practice, right? And when you do that, it becomes a ritual, empowered practice. That it's just a ritual, you know? So when people are talking about that ritual stuff, right? It was just a nice little marketing tool for you to understand that anything you do with purpose becomes a ritualistic part of your life. And when you do that consistently within, like, as a spiritual developer or a person like that philosophy, I would say if you can have something that taps into the physical body, the emotional and thinking mind, and the purposeful or the intentional vibration of your spirit, then you now have a holistic practice that fully empowers you and can be a ritual that becomes safe, right? Which is why yoga was one, prayer was one, praise and gratitude was one, hugging and kissing was one. Like, we understood. When you're feeling really bad, go hug somebody between facts. If you ain't got somebody, go hug a tree. And if you're married, go kiss your wife. That'll make it real, real, right? Because it hits all three parts of it, right? There's an emotional thing, there's a thinking thing, there's a physical thing, but there's also this purposeful energy, especially if I haven't had that gift yet, but from what I can tell in our societies, when you have a child and you go and do that ritual of kissing your wife, gets you straight back into the idea of the moment that she gave you a child. And that just gives you all of that. The physical, the emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual. You're like, oh, this is holy. This is God. This is it. This is the thing. I hope that answers your question. I'm going to go off on too much of a rant. Yeah, that's what
Yes.
came.
Yeah, expanded my consciousness on purpose even more. So thank you for that. I think it's when you also say having those practices and becoming ritualistic. And my morning yoga practice is so important. Ace knows, sacred to me. I do it without fail in some sort of way. And it is that combination of using my body, my mind, my breath, my spirit, my moving the emotions, all of that is so important. But if I don't do it with purpose, I don't purposely stay present within the moment, and I'm just like moving and thinking about, well, what are we going to make for breakfast? What are we going to do today? Then it takes the sacred aspect of it away. And so, yeah, thank you for what you said. Just continuing to do that with purpose is vital for that to still be beneficial on that holistic level.
Let me ask a practical application question to all of you all. So in the modern day world, right, everybody's different, but a typical day for someone might be to wake up in the morning, right? And you use the bathroom, you take a shower, you get the coffee pot going, all familiar sounds, right? The pour of it, getting it going. For different people, it might be a lighter, they might smoke something, going and checking social, grabbing your phone, checking your email, checking your text, checking Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is that you got going on, all of those things. I'm not saying none of those things can be done with purpose. Some of those things could be done with purpose and whatnot. But in a lot of what I hear, the language that you use in MT, where we've used revolutionized, you've talked about what you say, higher frequency, vibrations. We're talking about being in a flow, right? The flow state. In the modern day world, I would imagine that for people, including myself, the mornings can be the hardest time for that because, we talk about even breath, right? It's the hardest time sometimes to hold that in. It's hard. It's almost like resistant to an extent. And then, so if we can't get even to the starting, the deep breathing, whatever that means for you, but we can't even get the deep breathing going. And then, like I said, you go into the coffee pot, you're looking at your thing, you're using the bathroom, you're using all these familiar things. And then what we do is we think about our day and we think, oh, I have this meeting, I've got to meet this person, I got podcast with MT at noon, I've got, talking circle with my students at 2, I've got faculty senate at 3, and I start imagining how those things might go. And what I believe that I'm doing is I am completely, I shouldn't say completely, but that going through those motions unconsciously, what it does is it disrupts the flow. It puts me on a lower frequency. And if we talk about the word death, it almost makes my day die before it started because I've reduced all opportunities for the unknown to take place because I've already predicted how it's going to go. I've imagined this person and this person. And when we look back on hindsight, we're almost always wrong. Folks almost never have the intentions that we projected onto them or that we imagined that they had. And so, I guess I don't have an exact question for you, but it's so hard. So first I want to empathize with people, that are trying to make changes in their life, but, and they say, I'm going to do it tomorrow. But when they wake up, they got trouble pulling in the medicine into their lungs, right? It's a struggle. And then you move on and then you say you're not going to look at this, but something catches your eye on your phone. And the next thing you're going and somebody said something that causes a little anxiety in you. And then, maybe you're not feeling 100% today. So first off, I just want to empathize with people. Life is hard, especially as social workers that are going through education or getting up to go and empathize with everyone else. And maybe nobody's empathizing with you, or at least it doesn't feel like they are. How do we empathize with ourselves and show that care and compassion for ourselves? And instead of, looking down on ourselves from that very first moment, because you can't pull in the breath that you needed to, not sticking to that little ritual or that little thing that you wanted to do to move yourself forward in a positive way, how can we be kind to ourselves and, make a little elbow room for ourselves just a little bit at a time to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves? And, again, it's hard from the very moment that we wake up. So I just wonder what do you all are, you're on elevated paths in this regard. And so I'm curious, and just for my own practical information and for everyone out there, tell us about it. Like, how did it come about for you all to get it going? What do you do when you're doubtful? What do you do? Because I know you both expressed to me that you don't feel it sometimes, but all of it, all those questions in one all together, just tell us about it.
Yeah, there's so many times where I do not want to get out of bed. And I was telling the kids this the other day because when they wake up in a bad mood, like, it's a choice to get out of bed and walk over, roll out my mat. As soon as I put my feet and my knees and my hands on that mat, and I am intentional about that purpose, like you say, MT, then I'm right there in the present moment, and I be with it. But I think to answer your question, the phrase that sticks out for me is "think big, start small." That Michael Franti song as well. Because there was a time not that long ago, I think probably maybe 4 years ago, where I wasn't doing that. And I wake up in the morning and I'd be cranky, my back would be stiff, I'd get in the shower, then I'd go to work reluctantly and move through my day. And then I would do like a yoga practice in terms of like a yoga asana practice, maybe in the evening for an hour or on the weekend. But when I changed it, I had this big thought of I didn't think it in this way at the time, but when I look back, I need to revolutionize my morning so that my day can be better in whatever we want to call that. So I had to make small changes. So I remember starting when we lived in Kailua, I would just get out of bed in the morning and do like 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes of just like move, like stretch my back out, do some breathing. And then it grew. And I was like, oh, this feels good. Do a little bit more. And then I'm going to get up a little bit earlier so I can do a little bit more. And it just grew and grew and grew. And so then my turning on like a yoga class online every once in a while turned into, oh, now I went through yoga teacher training. I want to learn more about the practice. I want to learn more about the spirituality. And it just connecting. Everything was aligning. And so I thought big. And obviously, Ace, you have all of these big thoughts and ideas, and you can visualize it and imagine it, but starting small as well. That's what's been key for me anyway. And now it's something that I don't even if I'm reluctant about it and like I don't want to get out of bed, it's cold, it's like a no-brainer that I am going to get on that mat for however long. And even when I'm running late, that is one thing that I do not pass by. I will get on that mat, I will breathe, I will stretch out my back, because I would rather be late for something else and in my right mind and my body feel aligned with my breath and my spirit, because then I'll be able to respond better in that situation than getting in the shower a little bit early and being a little bit on time. I do need to work on my time management. That is one thing I do.
I was wondering, how come you're not that committed to me? I wish I could get that kind of commitment.
Oh, stop. In so many other ways I am.
I would like to say something on this topic. It's something that MT said earlier, and it was like that clear and destination. I heard the words clear and destination. So 3 years ago, I weighed 450 pounds. I've lost 200 pounds. And so there are dates where Fat Boy would show back up. He'd be like, hey, stay in the bed. Don't do the 6 o'clock in the morning workout. Don't do it. I started yoga probably about 3 months ago, and I'm not perfect at this. I'm still learning my down dog, and I'm learning these things. But there's this thing that keeps me in the bed. All right? And so what I've learned is, David, allow yourself to feel the feeling. Okay? So here's the thing. Feel like today is just, and I'm going to give you the list of what it looks like. I don't feel like getting up. And so then what I had learned to do is say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move your foot. I move my foot, right? And so then I start acting my personality in the bed. Feel like just slithering. Feel like just moving real slow. So I'll slither right out the bed and find myself right on the floor. And for some silly reason, I start looking at myself like your kids falling out. What are you doing? Your clear and purpose destination is to be where? I want to be on the stage. I want to be flexible. I want to have that. But if there's a clear and purpose or clear destination of where you really truly want to be, make yourself look at yourself. Make yourself pay attention to what you're doing right now. I love the fact, and I was getting goosebumps while you were talking about you got to force yourself to pull the mat out. That's hard because I haven't had sugar in 2 years. My wife, she's a diabetic. I love her to death. But there's times where she'll pull out some bread, she'll pull out some ice cream, there you go, cupcakes. And I'm like, well, how the hell am I supposed to keep going if you doing this? But consider yourself climbing Mount Everest. And there's only one way to the top. Now, there's several ways to get off the mountain. You can jump, you can leap, you can walk back down, push people out your way to go back down. But there's only one way to the top. And I've learned that I want to climb this damn mountain. Gotta get to the top. Gotta get to the top, to the top. There's no way I'm going back to 450. Can't do that. I have to get to the top. So then the other part is you got all these freaking distractions, decisions, all these different things that just keep coming. So you got a choice to make. You can speak to the decision. You can speak to the choice. You can speak to the distraction. Move out my way. I am climbing a mountain. I've got to make it to the top. If I don't make it to the top, I'm killing you and me. Can't go back. I couldn't walk. I was embarrassing to go in front of people. I'd be damned if I go back. So I slither out the bed. And I look at the food and I'm actually acting like, get up. She's going, we got to climb this mountain. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. I want to eat this cake or I can eat the beef jerky. 5, 4, 3, 2, make a move. Every time you see the countdown, there's a shit going out. There's a car running around the rack. There's a person racing the track. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because you have a decision. And you have to have a clear and purpose decision that you're going to have to make to get up top this mountain. I want to get on the top. So I feel like if you're going to be fulfilled and if you want to feel like you're being fulfilled, if there's a fulfillment feeling that you want, do it. It hurts. It hurts to tell my wife, I do not want to look at you eat. I'm going to walk to the other room. She'll start feeling some type of way. But I got a mountain to climb.
That is a powerful purpose. And it guides you along. Yeah. And life is a gift, And so it's way too short and way too precious for us to not do that, to climb the mountain, to keep going, to keep running, like you said. MT, what are your thoughts on that?
I love that it's very from Asa talking about the unknown. It brings me to one of the first lessons that I teach in Orisha dance. We talk about this energy or this deity, this Orisha, this frequency that helps guide our consciousness, the good character part. And a lot of us know what this thing is. It just looks right. Seeing yourself. This is the non-reality. This is the unknown reality. And your non-reality is potential for something unknown, unexpected to come in. In the unknown, there's always this beautiful joy and enlightenment, right? That's what we think it is. That's not the truth. This is the way Western people think it. They think this is the yin and the yang. This is the yin yang. This symbol is called the down. We think about the separation. We take ownership of thoughts and feelings. But thoughts and feelings should not be what I think and what I feel, not me. Right? One of my first practices in meditation, mindfulness practice was to say, I am not the body. I am not the mind. I'm not the sensory responses of the things that are outside. I'm not. I'm the thing that gets to choose what all of that is. That's the me. And so when we look at this and we think of this duality of yin and yang competing within the present moment, this is not presence. This is not peace. When we think of it as this dichotomy, this is the truth of all experience. And the important part is this, is the line. The line in between the two is the gap. It's what we call, like the definition from Chinese to English, the translation is the path. And path, the knowing the path and being able to stay on that path while having experiences of the known and the unknown always happen. The expected and the unexpected. What I want and what I don't want is choice. Choice is what puts you into the present. Choice is not the thought. It's not the feeling. It's the action. That's what creates that purpose. Purpose is only a choice when you're done. I can think, I'm going to get up tomorrow. Yeah, every day. I know people that have themselves convinced that they're good people because they practice telling themselves a narrative that I behave well. And that my behavior is well accepted and it creates harmony everywhere I go and I get to live like this, da, 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 da. But they're destroying everything around them. They just practice that. They're choosing to make that their narrative, right? Their choice creates their reality. And it's not the thinking, it's not the feeling, it's that they act on it. They act on the thought. They act on the feeling. So when you get up, like we all chose, right? Like, I'm a military man. I'm a fireman. You don't become a warrior without choosing every day. Young married, you know, marriage is not a thought. It is not a feeling. It is waking up every day and being like, I choose you. And I choose you with my actions, right? That's how I I chose you. As I woke up and things still went like life. Life is life. And it's still me and you. Yo, I got you. You made the choice. And because of that, now I can have this experience. Now and the path shows itself. But you're still going to experience the known and the unknown. So without choice, there is no purpose. Without purpose, there is no process. And without process, there is no product. I think a lot of us Westerners, we're always so fixated on the product and the processes. I'm so purpose driven. I can't even say it backwards, right? We're always like, here's the thing, right? If I go to this job and I work 20 years, I get a retirement and I don't have to work for the next 60. That's a process that provides a particular product, right? And we're so fixated on the process and product that we forget the purpose of building wealth and silence. And so you go and devote yourself to this process, expecting this product, but it don't work because the product is a lie. Because nothing in life comes out replicated. It's always new. I can take your genetic material, her genetic material. Guess what? When it comes out, the baby, it's gonna be something new. It ain't gonna be you. It ain't gonna be you. It ain't gonna be this. It's just a human, a new dynamic experience. Only the Industrial Revolution can introduce that idea that the same process creates the same product that nature never does. So nature knows its purpose. Its purpose is to create life. So when you choose something, you choose the diagram. You choose what this looks like. You choose, okay, I don't want to get up and do my yoga problems. Let me go here. Or here, sorry. This is the no. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to stay in my comfort. I'm not going to let this new process of doing my yoga practice bring something new to me. This is an unknown thing right now. I'm laying in bed feeling all uncomfortable and like I don't want to get up. But the moment I choose, I'm not bringing unexpected thing into me, right? And I get to jump into this experience. I'm now on the unexpected. I didn't expect to do my yoga when I was sitting in bed feeling all nice and cozy, but I made the choice. And when I do, what happens? I get this beautiful joy of enlightenment. This is why my purpose or my motto in my life has always been power in the practice, wisdom in the work. The process, that's me intentionally engaging that process. That's my practice. I want to do yoga. Go in there. Every time I do it, I'm empowered. But the work, the wisdom, the thing that lets me know that the practice is going to get me to where I want to go, is going to produce that event, is going to create this new creation for me in my life, is the inner wisdom and work of making a choice every day, every time. When somebody upsets me, I get to choose how I respond to it. And you and I both know the best way for me to tap in to that response rather than reaction, thinking mechanism or experiencing mechanism, right? And so that's why when we're always dealing with that yin yang principle, we're always talking about how you breathing, what's the path? Are you conscious and purpose? Are you present in the path? What airway are you doing? What is the pattern of the way that you're choosing your present moment? That's the power. And you're going to be powerful no matter what choice you make. So make good choices. And then you'll have, and like my brother did, lost 200. Come on, guy. He put so much power into that practice of all these different things that helped alleviate whatever the thing that he was holding on to, right? And so I'm consciously choosing what it is that I am purposing in my life. Just like our last conversation, Ace, my virtues and my values, that's what I go to. That's why it's on the wall. Because I don't want just me to see it. I want my mother to see it. I want my guests to see it. I want them to know where they can come into the present moment with me. Because you ain't coming into the present moment without humility. You ain't coming into the present moment with me without purpose, without, generosity, without all of these things. And so, we have all these beautiful mechanisms to help us use this God-given gift of the free will to actually make a choice or to take action. And every choice you make empowers your reality. And that's what the Tao is. That's the path in between the known and the unknown are your actions. And if you have purpose, you can keep one foot on your purpose while you jumping, co-locating in between the known and the unknown. That's why when you're in that full body awareness of asana practice, you have that, like the identity of the experiences in the body, like you're feeling the joints and the muscles and the blood flow and the breath, but you're also feeling the experience of you outside, like, oh, I got the posture and this. That's an outside observation while having an inward experience. That's the power of having purpose that allows you to go into the known and the unknown, or the limited and the unlimited intelligence of experiencing of life. That's our problem as human beings. Is we're too freaking phenomenal. We can have co-located experience, and we have the choice to be an active participant on it. And when we do, magical things happen, like babies and love and peace, bliss, joy, or like my goal when I hit 120, wake up on a Thursday morning around 6 a.m. My family's gonna know I'm gonna be on this hill on my lane, and I'm just gonna leave at 6 a.m. Be a meditation. I'm gonna take a breath. My body's gonna be there, but I'm not. And you want to come check into my nose and be like, he's gone. 6. Good shit, baby. Right? And that's because I'm choosing almost all the time. Anytime I'm confronted with my emotions, anytime I'm confronted with my thoughts, anytime I'm confronted with unaligned behavior or environments or experiences, I have to say, man, no, that's my moksha, that's my goal. That's my purpose. To really just be able to say, no, the thought ain't me, the feeling ain't me. How the consequences of the choice ain't it. I am that powerful human being that gets to choose how I'm being. Unlike every other animal in nature, get that power to choose the way I'm going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful. It makes me think too, many of us, our primary problem in this regard is, we want something, or we want change, or we want this, we want to be different, we want something, but we just won't let it go. We hold on so tight. And even when you talk about like, this thought is not mine, right? It's coming through there, but I didn't want it to come in there, but it still came in there, right? But sometimes, like, you don't want that thought in there, but you hold on to it so tight. Like, I used to have this complex about me to where I would look at myself as this, we talked about this before, MT, but this wounded boy, right? And I looked at it almost like this badge of honor. And, and I always had to go into every future situation as the wounded boy. And, I looked at it as it made me stronger and et cetera, et cetera. But really, I was just reenacting a version of myself that was far long gone and didn't reflect my current reality. And so just by doing the most simplest thing of letting it go, I'm telling you, I was holding on tight. Like I got a strong grip and that shit was on tight. So yeah, sometimes, and I'm sure you experience this as a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Dave, I'm sure you've talked to people and sometimes they're talking about the problems. And you're like, you just want to say, just fucking let go, man. Just let it go. And they're just not ready. And that's another thing, we have to be able to meet people where they're at. And sometimes we're just not ready. And lots of people told me that in various ways. But you know what? I had to let go when I was ready to let it go, when the time was there. But, we can move ourselves in that direction, by thinking and reflecting and setting up positive habits and, recognizing the thoughts when they come in, trying to either usher them out or maybe change them with something more positive from a problem to a solution. Basic social work 101.
Right, Professor?
But
there are times where you don't think you can let it go.
Yeah.
There are times where you feel like that if letting this go, I don't know what I'm going to lose. But imagine this for a second. Let's just say, okay, I probably shouldn't be showing that, but let's just say this. That was my gummies. I'm sorry. But let's just say the gum. Let's just say this is the thing that we're holding on to. Fair enough? Can we say that?
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say out of this thing are 1,000 needles in this thing. And the one thing we do is this. And we don't realize that now there's blood dripping down our arms. And like, you don't want to let it go though, because it's like, it's a lost love, or it's like you said, I was born in Detroit, come from hard times, my mama and my daddy and then my stepdad or what, like there's things that we would like to hold on to. And it's like, it's important to us to hold on to it, but at the same time, it's hurting us. Damn sure it's killing us. But yet, for some strange reason here, it's so important to not let it go. But then you don't realize that you have the power. You literally don't realize how much power you have until, like you just said, Ace, when you come into it, like I'm very thankful for the classes we used to go through. I'll make this quick. Thankful for the classes I used to go through with you, because you are the teacher that make you learn. I don't like that teacher all the time, but that teacher makes you think about what it is that you are doing, holding you responsible for what it is that you're holding on to, what you're not allowing yourself to do. Literally, the information that we get on a daily. I talk about weight loss, right? I can say McDonald's commercial, come on tomorrow. And I'm, oh man, that chicken burger just looks so great. But at the same time, that's information that comes in and make me start thinking differently. Like MT was saying, not only that, but man, right now we're like days away from the new president of the United States. Who you voting for? Kamala is just the greatest thing ever on the face of the planet. Donald Trump is the worst thing that ever happened. The information now that you have received has changed your whole thought process on what it is that you want to do. Nobody wants to get that clear understanding of what it is that they want to do. So they allow things to come into our lives. And I don't want to switch concepts. It's just the fact that I just love the conversation. And I think that is just very powerful. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
Yeah, Dave, it's a pleasure having you here. And, I have it on my list to talk about just what you were heading towards with politics and the election coming up. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time because we got kids that their movie's going to be over, and I got modules to do for my courses, and I'm sure you all got things to do too. But I think that we only have a few weeks. And so I think a conversation I wanted to have, which we just won't have time for, but what, as revolutionary social workers, what is our obligation, or what is our responsibility to, speak up around things that we see, believe in, or I think the world has moved in a weird way in recent years where it's kind of like a call out culture. And I'm sure that we've all been guilty of it at some point or whatnot. And I think I guess what I'm saying here is that as revolutionary social workers and doing the podcast, that we got to flesh these ideas out. But, those things need to be considered further. Like, what is the appropriate way to engage somebody that, and I'm getting away. I'm starting to dislike the word agree and disagree. I've learned that, in a lot of conversations where I'm looking for real depth, so what I get back from people is often I either agree or I disagree. And I'm not really looking for that. What I would really like for is, for you to listen to me and me to listen to you, and let's move, in the right direction together. But it's hard to do. And so I'm sorry we don't have time to talk about that, but hopefully we can get us all back together for another time.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Bro, it's like you were talking about the responsibility of social workers and therapists to help others. And when we were talking about holding on, Brother Davis, he spoke about how most of us person hold. It's like this all-encompassing thing within your hand, right? And one of the first lessons that I learned was this thing. I'm holding it, I'm holding on. As reevaluation counselor, I don't want you to do this. That's just as traumatic as the traumatic experience. It's just as dividing of my, connection to the present moment and as the trauma. To let go of that experience at one time without any processing. That's crazy. Let people go to ayahuasca ceremonies and come completely disassociated, disconnected because they experience it just wiped out their relationship, detoxified their whole body, and they have nothing left to hold on to. When we talk about healing and the process of healing and letting go, we don't hold on and just drop it. We just try to unfold the petals, right? And I can still hold it, but I don't lose it. It just allows me to observe it. Now I can actually turn it around, change my perspective on it. I can twist, I can play with it. And it's still, it's an object that I can still look at the thought. I can still hold the feeling in my hand, but not hold on to it in such a way. The only experience is to let go and be disassociated from my experience. That's how I look, right? So when we're holding on, and I'm asking my clients to let go of something, I'm constantly reminded as the provider, I don't want you to drop it. I don't want you to throw away who you were, what you experienced. I want us to unfold the petals, the different perspectives that make it so that you can see it clearly enough to observe it in more ways so that you can choose whether you want it. Then I can chunk it, keep it, and empower it however I want to. It's not about letting go. It's about being able to see it clearly and being able to engage it. And I think as social workers, as therapists, as counselors, our responsibility, what we're able to respond to, is the unfolding of our perspective to see more and to be able to manipulate it or to play with it more, not letting go of trauma, because it's impossible. Because that's a somatic healing, that's what your body keeps us. It's going to be there. You're never going to get rid of it. No healing in the body goes back to its old form. If I break a bone and it heals, it's not the same, ever. It's going to be stronger, thicker, it may be more brittle, it may change its shape, but it never goes back. I cut my skin, it doesn't go back to being flawless again. I get a little scar, but I'm healed. Don't mean I'm not healed. Doesn't mean that I haven't, accomplished. It just means that whatever was there before, I need to look at it in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at it too. Working with social work students, they come in and for a practice class, for example, they often want to solve I'm teaching them to meet with someone for the first time and they want to solve everybody's problems. They're helpers. They want to solve it. I'm like, whoa. You have to remember this is one meeting where you might have to meet with this person for years, potentially. I mean, it's not always the case, but it could be. And so I like to look at it like this. Like imagine you had a piece of paper and you either crumpled it up as tight as it could go, or even you folded it up, and so that person has a problem or a series of problems or trauma or whatever, and it's all tightened into this wad. And if you just unfolded it all at once, it's going to be confusing. It's going to be overwhelming and you're not going to be able to see the details. And so, just by unfolding one little corner or one little bit and taking a look at it, and a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time, you know what I'm saying? By unfolding it piece by piece, eventually you get to look at the big picture, but you got to do it with intricate detail, and, you know, not trying to be that savior to save everyone, right? Do you struggle with that still?
Yeah, my goodness. The amount of times we have to check ourselves. And when I talk to my fellow clinicians at the place I work, it's always that. In my case consult groups, I'm always thinking, what do we need to self-reflect on today? What kind of things are coming up? What are we trying to jump to that savior? And what are we missing in the process of that? Because if we do that, we push people we're working with away. Whereas if we unfold just gently and we plant seeds and we meet people where they're at right now and just all those things that we know, then we can come along that journey together. And it's the same, just from what all of you are saying, it made me think of going back to quickly that political landscape we're in. If we are just these two kind of holding on to beliefs and one side's on here, and then we just clash, like this is just not going to go. Whereas, like you say, if you start to unfold these things and then we can start to meld and come closer together, I think that's our responsibility as social workers in these next few weeks, is to help ourselves do that and help each other do that, of just unfold gently, taking those petals one by one, and then we can have dialogue together, there's commonality in something somewhere, there's unity in something, right? And we stop clashing and we start talking, right?
I think, you know, that applies to politics and ourselves. When you talk about somebody who's all wrapped up in a political partisan beliefs, sometimes folks act like, you know, you could just educate them and they're going to be like, no, you know, I've changed my whole worldview and all my experiences and everything I thought about in the 79 million hours of Fox News or CNN that I watched. And it doesn't happen, right? In order to change those things, it has to be subtle and gradual, and people have to be willing to unfold them. And you might be able to help them. Hey, take a look at this little corner, but they're not going to change right away. And then I also think about it to ourselves, you know. I have been through a whole world of personal change and development forever. I mean, it's decades now, more than decades. And, you know, when I was younger, I got frustrated with change, right? Because I wanted to unfold the whole thing at once and go and save the world and save myself. But when I look back now, after, you know, even if I say 20 years, every little thing that I did, every little book that I read, every person that I talked to, every time I shared, every time I listened to a podcast or listened to this or sat and reflected and meditated, even at the very beginning when I was meditating, it was like showing me little bits and little bits. And then, you know, here I am, I find myself in the future and I'm like, wow, you know, the paper's I can almost see the whole thing. There's still some stuff there. And you know what's else is beautiful? There's a whole other side to draw my own picture. And, you know, it's another thing I wanted to talk about today and we just don't get to, but I think when we talk about culture, whether it's, you know, racially based or politics based or whatever, oftentimes you hear us talking about culture like it's something that's just given to us, and and I'm not saying you're not given any culture, because we are, right? You have you have very little choice of how you grow up or whatnot, but you have a choice in creating your culture for now. And that's how I look at myself and the family is, you know, people ask me about culture and I hear other people talking about it, but I look at it as a static. It's something that's static, that's moving all the time, and that's currently being developed, you know, out there in the world, not something that was given to me. And we realize complications like that too when you're in like a multicultural family, right? Everything doesn't fit cleanly. And so you have to, if you're not careful about it, all those things can weigh on you instead of keeping what fits and, you know, not even getting rid of, just letting it go.
Right.
What doesn't.
You unfold and then you come together, and it's that flow rather than that stagnation. It's that flow of energy that creates the culture. And if we just hold on to these things that we're talking about and not allow ourselves to open up and flow, that's when we get stuck, and that death that we've been talking about too.
It's like, I have to do this, or I have to feel this way, or I have to think this way, or I have to be this way because I'm this, or because even if it's an experience you had, you know, negative experiences or trauma, then I have to be this way and I can't let it go. But that can't be further from the reality. And we are the makers of our own destiny. Everybody has God right there in your own heart. And if you would just listen, I shouldn't say just, because it's a big task when the world shuts it out over and over and over again. But if we can just learn to open up our hearts and to listen. And I thought we did a good job of this in this podcast, because in a podcast, you got stuff you want to say, right? But when there's 4 of us and everybody has something to say, you have to be willing to be patient and to listen, like in a talking circle. And I think that that's what brings about unity consciousness. I may have not have said everything I wanted to say or responded to everything, but what I did is I built unity consciousness, because I sat here and I listened to everybody, and I know more about each of you. I know more about myself, and I know more about the world that we're moving forward in together. And I got to jump off my soapbox because we got to go.
And like I said, we could go on forever, but thank you so much to all
I
of you,
love
all
you,
3 of
too.
you.
Y'all are such a great, beautiful compliment of just like a masculine and feminine. Bro, you just gave me like infrastructure, like a man's supposed to. I'm gonna take out pieces of paper and I'm going to crumble them. And I'm going to literally experiment with all moving and unfolding it, my tear, my reveal. I'm gonna play with that idea. But as soon as I had that, I had all this going in my head, all mixing of it, and sis started talking, and the first thing I heard was grace, and how much grace is such an important part of being in that present moment, in that flow, in that unity consciousness, in the patience to listen and hear ourselves and others. I just love you too. I love talking to y'all. This is amazing, brother Dave. It's been phenomenal getting to know you, bro. I can't wait to more.
Same here.
And thank y'all so much for this conversation. This has been phenomenal for me. I thank you. And thanks sis for leading it, for setting the tone, and also just being such a great example of the wisdom of the grace that is feminine. Thank you.
So much appreciation. Thank you.
I want to give it to Dave for some last words. But I just wanted to say, it reminded me of a story I just wanted to share real quick. Not really a story, but a long time ago, decades ago, I was in rehab. Now, as you can imagine, I was one hard-headed person that, fought tooth and nail everything that came. And I had a counselor, his name was Rick. And he, there's in the same day, we were in a group, and I ran for those that know me, I can be a milieu leader like no other, the alpha, if I'm put in those, in a locked up situation or something. But I was always in rehab, in a inpatient rehab. And I remember I thought I had everything wrapped around my finger, and I was in group, and Rick asking me all these questions, and I'm saying exactly what I think he wants to hear, yeah. And he's like, Chris, let me ask you something. Are you full of shit? And I was like, nah. And he's like, he looks around the group and he's like, who in here thinks, if you think Chris is full of shit, I can't remember if he said, raise your hand or stand up. And I looked at them like, nobody's going to do that. They got my back. And everybody stood up. And so I was like, okay, humility. And then he talked to me about it. And he's like, Chris, you're always trying to put everything together, and you're always trying to solve everything and trying to do this and pretend like nothing is wrong. But he's like, I want to tell you a story. And he said, there's a story about a man who was really troubled, and he was trying to get everything together. And he had a daughter who kept coming to ask him to play with him. And he told her, or what he did is he ripped up a map of the world and threw it on the ground and told her, look, the world's falling apart for me. I can play with you as soon as the world is put back into place. I promise you we'll play then. So the little girl leaves, and she comes back, and she has the map of the world taped back together. And he's like, well, how did you do this? And she said, well, it was simple. There was a picture of you on the back, and I just taped all the pieces together, and the world fell into place. And it always touched me in that way, to make me think about, we're always trying to change so much that we can't control. And those are some of the things that we hold on to, is what we can't control. And that goes with politics too, right? But if we put those little pieces of ourselves together, it's amazing how the rest of the world just seems to fall into place, whatever the situation is, whether you got money, whether you don't got money, whether you're in Alaska, whether you're in Hawaii, whether you're hanging out with your family, or whether you're solo. If you work on yourself and you put those pieces back together, the world will fall into place just as it is, as it's needed, or it's supposed to, or it's intended to, however you want to look at it. So I just wanted to leave with that story. Brother Dave, got any last words?
Just to anybody that's listening, first of all, thank you guys for letting me be here. But anybody that's listening, I give just a little small thing, and that is to just challenge yourself, set some goals. You're going to feel discomfort, and you're going to feel your fears, but it'll help you to elevate your mind. That's all. And in this conversation, empty yourself. The Stettlers Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being who you guys are. Thank you for always posting. Thank you for having your don't stop doing that. You're definitely doing your job by encouraging people like myself, because with this and even in this conversation, it makes you want to challenge more. Push harder, keep pushing, keep pushing. Look at those things that you want to do, set those boundaries and just keep going. Learn something new every day. And yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Dave. Thanks, MT. Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to the next time. I wish all of you love, happiness, peace to you and your family, from my heart to yours, our family to yours. Take care out there. It's a rough world. We got some times coming up, and we don't got time for you, MT.
Man, that's peace. You don't know this is the actual symbol for peace.
Okay.
This is a Western idea of peace, which is separation. This is the symbol for peace. It's togetherness, is the family. You have the two fingers together and one hand. That's peace, is a family. This is separation or division. This ain't peaceful. This is peaceful. I was just saying peace, bro. Peace and power. I love
got
y'all.
time for
Y'all are
that.
amazing.
Yeah. Peace to you too. I think we were tarnished by Mario at the end of the episodes. I would add one other funny story is that my grandpa Bill, you two don't know him, but he's a funny guy, great guy. But one day when I was younger, he's like, Ace, I really need to ask you something. All these people keep throwing me gang signs. And I'm like, what does this mean? What gang signs are they throwing at me? And I'm like, well, even if they're doing it wrong, Grandpa, they're just trying to say peace.
I would love to see what his response was
love that.
in the moment.
That's a perfect Zen color, bro. You know, you're giving this like, this is what it is. And then it's like, it could also be this. I love it. Perfection. Y'all are amazing. Have a great day. I love you.
All right, everyone. Peace.
Love you all.
You've been listening to the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast, and we just want to say thank you for your continued support. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Remember to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share our content with the world. But most of all, never forget to keep being revolutionary. Peace.